Krishna
Hare Krishna
Krishna Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Hare
Ram Hare
Ram
Ram Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिकांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये बोलो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की
जय
जय।
हरे कृष्णा
हरे कृष्णा
Hare Krishna, everyone.
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्णा करण बोलो सचिन हरे कृष्णा
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्णा जय
हरे कृष्णा
cool so hopefully everyone had a nice weekend.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So back to Srimad Bhagavatam on Monday. So far, we have been reading Canto 4. We are on chapter 25th and Shlok 5th. Yeah. And what we are reading in this chapter, Hare Krishna Rinaji.
Hare Krishna Bhaiya.
And we are reading in this chapter about the story of King Niranjan. And in the previous chapter, we read like how Prachetas, and Prachetas are son of Prachin Bhirshat, Prachin Bhirshat, right? King Prachin Bhirshat is descendant of Maharaj Dhruv. Yeah. So what we have been reading about is descendant of Maharaj Dhruv. Yeah. And Maharaj Dhruv, as we know, is descendant from Shambhu Manu and Lord Brahmaji himself. So then Vidur Maharaj is asking Maitre Muni to tell about descendants of Maharaj Dhruv. So we are reading about the Prachin Bhishar, and King Prachin Bhishar had the son who are known as Prachetas, right? So last chapter we were reading about how Lord Shiva himself told Prachetas how to do stuti of Lord Purushottam, right? And then also on Wednesday we heard that whole stuti of what Lord Shiva was teaching all the Prachetas, and that was so beautiful, right? So meanwhile, what's going on is Pracheta's father, who is none other than King Prachin Bharishat, is too much engaged in the fruitive activities, right? So he's too much engaged in all the karmas. And given that he is father of Prachetas and also descendant of Maharaj Dhruv, Narad Muni thought that he needs to be given Siksha about the transcendental knowledge. And that's what we are reading right now, that Narad Muni comes to Prachin Bharishat and gives him the Siksha so that he can get out of the fruitive activities or the Karm Kand, as we call it. Yeah. So that's what we are reading. So last Wednesday, we read this shlok where Raja, and Raja is none other than Prachin Bharishat, is replying to Narad Muni that the king replied, "O great soul, Narad, my intelligence is entangled in fruitive activities. Therefore, I do not know the ultimate goal of life." Right? Because if you remember, Narad Muni comes and tells Prachin Bhaisha that it's all good, you are doing all these karmas, but do you really know the end goal of the human life? What is the ultimate goal, the greatest achievement of human life? And so he's saying he doesn't know that. So kindly instruct me in pure knowledge so that I can get out of the entanglement of the fruitive activities. Yeah. So King Bhaishat is asking Narad Muni to give him the knowledge so that he can get out of the fruitive activities. So we'll start the shlok 6th. And now, yeah. So Ajay.
Sure. Griheshu kute dharmeshu putradar dhanarthi na param vindate mudho brahmyanam sansar vatsarmasu. Those who are interested only in so-called dutiful life, namely remaining as householder entangled by sons and a wife and searching after wealth, think that such things are life's ultimate goal. Such people simply wander in different types of bodies throughout this material existence without finding out the ultimate goal of life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So what Narad Muni is telling King Prachin Bhaishat, right? That in Griheshu, right? The Grihast ashram, and they call it Grihast man, because we, all of us, we get entangled into the dutiful life. Like we think this is our duty and that's what we do. But that's the only thing we do, right? Kut dharmeshu putra dar dhanat thi hai. Like we are behind money, right? We are behind the householder things, right? And we think that is the ultimate goal of life. But that is not the ultimate goal of human life, is what is Narad Muni telling King Prachin Bhaishat. See, because he says, Na param vidante mudho, because those people think that is all. What happens to them? Brahmyam sansar vatarmashu. Like they keep wandering into this universe in different types of bodies. And we have seen how many different types of births person takes. Remember? How many different types of bodies?
3,84,000.
Right, 8.4 million, 84 lakh. 8.4 million different types of bodies, right? So what happens is people who are just into the karma kand, because they get the results of karma, it can be good or bad depending on the karmas, but they still keep rotating into this material existence without finding out the ultimate goal of life, is what Narad Muni is telling to King Prachin Bhaishat. Yeah, a nice purport actually. So let's read this. Tarun.
The words Brahmyan, Samsara, Vartamasu are significant. In Chaitanya Karim Charit, sorry, how do you say that?
Chaitanya Charitmrita.
Charitmrita, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very clearly explains Brahmananda Brahmite Kona Bhagvayam Jiva. All living entities are wandering in different types of bodies throughout different planets. And if in the course of their wanderings, they come in contact with a devotee by the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their lives become successful. Even though King Prachina Bhaishat was engaged in fruitive activity, the great sage Narada appeared before him. The king was very fortunate to be able to associate with Narada, who enlightened him in spiritual knowledge. It is the duty of all saintly persons to follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni and travel all over the world to every country and village just to instruct illusioned persons about the goal of life and to save them from the entanglement of karma bandha, fruitive activity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So nicely written, right? And we know like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, right? And we just saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Purnima, who gave us this message of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, so that all of us, our souls can keep getting purified and we start understanding the ultimate goal of life. And as you can see, the Rishi Narad Muni appeared before Prachin Bhaishat to give this message. And what is being mentioned is, that's why we should be respectful of all these great saints, right? Like all these great saints who devote their entire life in educating people, in educating them in spiritual advancement. I mean, of course, there are all kind of fake people also, right? But there are also real saints who are dedicating their life in enlightening people for spiritual knowledge based on their experience, their studies of Vedas and Purans and all that. So we should be really respectful of them. And it says it's the duty of them, saintly persons, yeah, to travel and educate people on spiritual advancement, is what is being mentioned here. Yeah. Reena ji?
Yes, भैया. नारद उवाच भो भोः प्रजापते राजन् पशून् पश्य त्वयाध्वरे संज्ञा पिताञ्जी वसङ्घान्निर्घृणेन सहस्रशः. The great saint Narad said, O ruler of the citizens, my dear king, please see in the sky those animals which you have sacrificed without compassion and without mercy in the sacrificial arena. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so Narad Muni is reminding Prachin Vaishya that, see, look what you have done. Right? Says that, says without knowledge, one cannot become detached from material enjoyment. And without being detached from material enjoyment, one cannot make spiritual advancement. Karmis are generally engaged in sense gratification. And for this end, they are prepared to commit so many sinful activities. Animal sacrifice is one, but such sinful activity. Consequently, by his mystic power, Narad Muni showed King Prachin Vaishya the dead animals which he had sacrificed, right, as a king. So Narad Muni is reminding him of that. Sachin?
इते त्वां सम्प्रतिक्षन्तुं स्मरन्तो वैशसं तव सम्परेतं पयः कुटैश्चिन्द अन्त्युत्थिमन्यवः. All these animals are awaiting your death so that they can avenge the injuries you have inflicted upon them. After you die, they will angrily pierce your body with iron horns. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So basically what Narad Muni is telling King Prachin Vaishya is the law of karma, right? So very interesting paragraph here. I think we should Jay, are you able to read?
Yeah, I can read. Narad Muni wanted to convince the king that overindulgence in animal sacrifice is risky because as soon as there is a small discrepancy in the execution of such a sacrifice, the slaughtered animal may not be promoted to a human form of life. Consequently, the person performing sacrifice will be responsible for the death of the animal, just as much as a murderer is responsible for killing another man. When animals are killed in a slaughterhouse, 6 people connected with the killing are responsible for the murder. The person who gave permission for the killing, the person who kills, the person who helps, the person who purchases the meat, the person who cooks the flesh, and the person who eats it all become entangled in the killing. Narad Muni wanted to draw the king's attention to this fact. Thus, animal killing is not encouraged even in sacrifice.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Jay. So basically what used to happen in, like we read many times that, some animals are sacrificed in the sacrifice during the Havan and all that. Now what this is mentioning is that used to be done in a very, very like a defined way. It had to be done in a very defined way. And why it was done was so that when it's done, the corresponding animal gets the human form of life in the next birth. Yeah. So that's why it was done in the Manu Samhita, it's mentioned, right? Then when that happens, yeah, the animal is to get the human birth in the next life. But if there is some mistake in that sacrifice, what happens is that becomes like you're killing the animal. And when you're doing that, there is a karmic reaction to that, is what is Narad Muni telling to King Prachin Vaishya. Yeah. Ajay?
अत्र ते कथेशेषे मितिहासं पुरातनं पुरञ्जनस्य चरितं निबोध गदतो मम. In this connection, I wish to narrate an old story connected with the character of king called Puranjan. Please try to hear me with great attention. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so Narad Muni is now telling King Puranjan a story in history of King Puranjan. Yeah, and that's what we are going to read now. And it's a nice purport explained here, Sachin.
The words Itihasam, history, and Puratanam, old, indicate that although living entity lives within the material body, the history of the living entity within the material body is very old. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakura has sung Anadi Karma Phale Padi Bhava Bhavarnava Jale Tari Bhare Na Dekhi Upaya. Due to my past fruitive activities, I have fallen into the water of material existence and I cannot find any way to get out of it. Every living entity is suffering in this material existence from past activities. Therefore, everyone has a very old history. Foolish material scientists have manufactured their own theories of evolution, which are simply concerned with the material body. But actually, this is not the real evolution. The real evolution is the history of the living entity, who is Puranjana, living within the body. Sri Narad Muni will explain this evolutionary theory in a different way for the understanding of sane persons. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So I think we think like our history is only from we were born in this world, right? Okay, I'm 20 years old, I'm 30 years old, right? But the fact is, right, the history indicates that although a living entity lives within this material body, the history is very, very old, right? Like all these different births, we don't remember, right? But we have all these karmas together, and due to the past fruitive activities, we are into this material existence. Yeah. Tarun?
Asit Puranjayo Nama Raja Rajan Brahachat Shrava Tasya Vijanata Namasit Sakha Vijnata Chesishta. My dear king, once in the past lived a king named Puranjana, who was celebrated for his great activities. He had a friend named Avijnata, the unknown one. No one could understand the activities of Avijnata. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So, as King is telling the story of King and Niranjan. Yeah? I think let's read this one, Rinaji.
The living entity is Sanatana, eternal, because he cannot be killed by any weapon, burnt into ashes by fire, soaked or moistened by water, nor dried up by air. He is considered to be immune to material reactions. Although he is changing bodies, he is not affected by the material conditions. He is placed under the material conditions and he acts according to the directions of his friend, the Super Soul, as is stated in Bhagavad Gita 15.15. सर्वस्य चाहम हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तः स्मृतिर्ज्ञानम् apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Thus, the Lord, as Paramatma, is situated in everyone's heart, and He gives directions to the living entity to act in whatever way the living entity desires. In this life and his previous lives, the living entity does not know that the Lord is giving him a chance to fulfill all kinds of desires. No one can fulfill any desire without the sanctions of the Lord. All the facilities given by the Lord are unknown to the conditioned soul. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So, a couple of things mentioned here are, one is, as we know, living entity is Sanatan, yeah, which is eternal. It's always existing because, as we know, yeah, cannot be killed by weapon, cannot be burned, cannot be by water, dried up by the air, and so on and so forth. So even though the material body changes and all that, the soul is eternal and always remains. Yeah, so that's one thing which we all already know. And why are we here? Because we have the desires. We have the materialistic desires. That's why we are here in this world. And Lord gives us a chance to fulfill these desires, is what is being mentioned here, right? But we become conditioned as we touch the materialistic world. But that's our desire. Ajay?
So Anveshmanam Sharanam Babhram Prithvi Prabhu Nanurupam Yada Vindad Bhoots Vimna Iv. King Puranjan began to search for a suitable place to live, and thus he traveled all over the world. Even after a great deal of traveling, he could not find a place just to his liking. Finally, he became morose and disappointed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what is being mentioned is King Puranjan was king, so he still was not happy. So he wanted some place where he can actually be really happy. So he has been traveling all around the world to find such a place. Yeah, can a Lord long purport. But what is being mentioned here, right? Like from the highest planet, and which is the highest planet in this materialistic world? Do you remember? Like we have 14 planets, right? What is the highest planet?
Vishnulok?
No, it's the Brahmalok, right?
Brahmalok.
Satyalok. Yeah, that is called Brahmalok. So we have 14. Vishnulok is beyond the materialistic world. Yeah. In this materialistic world, 14 planets. We are on the 7th planet, right? Above us, there are 7 more planets, and the highest one is the Brahmalok, where Lord Brahma resides. Yeah. The bottom one is, of course, the Patalok and all that. And then above us, we have Rishilok and Devatalok and all that other ones, right? But the highest one is where Lord Brahma resides. Yeah. So it says from the highest planet in this material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death takes place. So in the materialistic world, doesn't matter where we are, right? What is different is the age, right? Like, for example, Lord Brahma's age is 350 plus trillion years, right? Whereas in Kali Yuga, the human being is like less than 100 years old, right? So different age, less disease and all that, but what is common is still the repeated birth and death, right? The time is different. So it says in the materialistic world, a living entity is never satisfied. So it doesn't matter what you are. You may be a billionaire, you are a president, you are whatever, but is never satisfied. Even in the position of Lord Brahma or in the position of Lord Indra or Chandra, one is full of anxiety simply because he has accepted this material world as a place of happiness, and which is a wrong acceptance. This materialistic world is not the place of happiness, is what is being mentioned here. Yeah. Sachin?
न साधु मेने तः सर्वा भूतले यावतिः परपुरः कामान कामयमानो सौ तस्योपपत्तये. King Puranjana had unlimited desires for sense enjoyment. Consequently, he traveled all over the world to find a place where all his desires could be fulfilled. Unfortunately, he found a feeling of insufficiency everywhere. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So who is saying this? Who is currently speaking?
Narad Muni.
Narad Muni, right? And Narad Muni is speaking to whom?
The Prachetas, right?
Yeah, the king, Prachin Bahishya, right? He's the king. He's the father of all the Prachetas. Remember? Prachetas, Lord Shiva gave them the stuti. So Narad Muni has appeared to give this message to Prachin Bahishya to get out of the karmic activities and start advancement on the spiritual platform. And so he's telling the story of King Puranjan. That's what we are reading right now. Yeah. So King Puranjan, of course, had unlimited desires, and so he was finding feeling of insufficiency everywhere. Rinaji?
Yes, we have. Somehow I just minimized the window. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. Once sa ekda himvato dakshineshwata sanushu dadarsh navbhirdwarbhi puram lakshita lakshatram. Once while wandering in this way, he saw on the southern side of the Himalayas, in a place named Bharatvarsh, India, a city that had nine gates all about and was characterized by all auspicious facilities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So King Puranjan reaches, yeah, in a place southern side of Himalayas. Ajay?
प्राकार रूपवान न टाल परिखय चतुर्णे स्वर्णरौप्याय शृंगै संगकुलाम सर्वतो गृहे. The city was surrounded by walls and parks, and within it were towers, canals, windows, and outlets. The houses that were decorated with domes made of gold, silver, and iron. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Narad Muni is describing the place which King Puranjan located. Yeah. Sachin?
नीलस्फटिक वैदुर्य मुक्ताम करतारुण्यः कृप्त हम्यस्थलीं दीप्तां श्रिया भोगवती मेव. The floors of the houses in that city were made of sapphire, crystal, diamonds, pearls, emeralds, and rubies. Because of the luster of the houses in the capital, the city was compared to the celestial town named Bhogavati. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So think about the description of that city, right? Everything, how the houses are made, how the cities are made, even using crystals and diamonds and all that. That's what is being described. Tarun?
सभा चत्वरत्यभिर् अक्रीडयतनापनाय चैत्यध्वज पताकभिर्युक्तं विद्रुम वेदिभिः. In that city, there were many assembly houses, street crossings, streets, restaurants, gambling houses, markets, resting places, flags, festoons, and beautiful parks. All these surrounded the city. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Jay, would you read?
Yep. Uryastu bhayao pavane divya druma latakule nadad vihangli kula kolala jalasai. On the outskirts of that city were many beautiful trees and creepers encircling a nice lake. Also surrounding that lake were many groups of birds and bees that were always chanting and humming. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
Him nirjara viprushma kusumat karava yuna chalat pravala vitapana linitata sampadihi. The branches of the trees standing on the bank of the lake received particles of water carried by the spring air from the falls coming down from the icy mountain. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Rinaji?
नानारण्य मृगव्रात नाबाधे मुनिव्रते आहुतम मन्यते पांथो यत्र कोकिल कूजिते. In such an atmosphere, even the animals of the forest became non-violent and non-envious like great sages. Consequently, the animals did not attack anyone. Over and above everything was the cooing of the cuckoos. And any passenger passing along that path was invited by that atmosphere to take rest in that nice garden. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ajay?
Sure. Yadriksha yagatam tatra dadarsh pramodottamam bhrite darsh bhirayanti mekaikash natayake. While wandering here and there in the wonderful garden, King Puranjan suddenly came in contact with a very beautiful woman who was walking there without any engagement. She had 10 servants with her, and each servant had hundreds of wives accompanying him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so Narad Muni is telling the story of King Puranjan to Prachin Bhaishya. Yeah, Sachin.
पंचशीर्षाहिना गुप्तां प्रतिहारेण सर्वतः अन्वेष माणा वृष भमप्रौढां कामरूपिणम्. The woman was protected on all sides by a five-hooded snake. She was very beautiful and young, and she appeared very anxious to find a suitable husband. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jay.
Sunasam sudatim balam sukha pulam varunam sama vinyasta karnabhyam vibratim kundala shriyam. The woman's nose, teeth, and forehead were all very beautiful. Her ears were equally very beautiful and were bedecked with dazzling earrings. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so Narad Muni continues to tell the story. Tarun.
Pishanganivim susronim Shyama kanakame khalama padbhasyam kvadangadabhyam chalanti nupure devata miva. The waist and hips of the woman were very beautiful. She was dressed in a yellow sari with a golden belt. While she walked, her ankle bells rang. She appeared exactly like a denizen of the heavens. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, actually, I think we can read a few more shloks sometime. So let's read this. Ajay?
Sure. Tama lalitam viram savridag smith shobhanam snigth sigdhen napang pundakhen sprishtha premod bhram dubhoa. Puranjan, the hero, became attracted by the eyebrows and a smiling face of a very beautiful girl and was immediately pierced by the arrows of her lusty desires. When she smiled shyly, she looked very beautiful to Puranjan, who, although a hero, could not refrain from addressing her. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So this is the story of King Puranjan. Reenaji?
Katvam Kanj Palashakshi Kasyasi Kutah Sati Imamupa Purim Bhiru Kim Chakirshasi Shansame. My dear lotus-eyed, kindly explain to me where you are coming from, who you are, and whose daughter you are. You appear very chaste. What is the purpose of your coming here? What are you trying to do? Please explain all these things to me. Hare Krishna.
Jay?
Kayate nupate yeta ekadasa mahabhata etavalanlanaha subruhu koyam tehi purasara. My dear lotus-eyed, who are those 11 strong bodyguards with you, and who are those 10 specific servants? Who are those women following the 10 servants, and who is the snake that is preceding you? Hare Krishna.
Right. Yeah, interesting purport here. So let's read this. Tarun.
The 10 strong servants of the mind are the 5 working senses and the 5 knowledge-gathering senses. All these 10 senses working under the aegis of the mind. The mind and the 10 senses combine to become 11 strong bodyguards. The hundreds of women under the jurisdiction of the senses are addressed here as Lalana. The mind works under the intelligence, and under the mind are the 10 senses. And under the 10 senses are innumerable desires to be fulfilled. All these, however, depend on the vital life force, which is here represented by the snake. As long as the vital life force is there, the mind works. And under the mind, the senses work, and the senses give rise to so many material desires. Actually, the living entity known as Puranjana is embarrassed by so much paraphernalia. All this paraphernalia simply constitutes different sources of anxiety, but one who is surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who leaves all business to him is freed from such anxieties. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj advises a person who has taken to the materialistic way of life, which is never permanent but always temporary, to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and leave aside all his so-called responsibilities in order to get free from all anxieties. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So see how beautifully it describes what are those 11 bodyguards, right? The mind, which is man, right? And has karmendriya and gyanendriya, as we had read about the 10 senses and how everyone gets entangled into that. Yeah. Sachin?
Tam hirbhavanya syatha vagrama pati vichinvati kim muni vadroho vane twangri kamatpa samasta kamam kva padmakosha patitah karagrata. My dear beautiful girl, you are exactly like the goddess of fortune or the wife of Lord Shiva or the goddess of learning, the wife of Lord Brahma. Although you must be one of them, I see that you are loitering in this forest. Indeed, you are as silent as the great sages. Is it that you are searching after your own husband? Whoever your husband may be, simply by understanding that you are so faithful to him, he will come to possess all opulences. I think you must be the goddess of fortune, but I do not see the lotus flower in your hand. Therefore, I am asking you where you have thrown that lotus. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So King Puranjan is asking, and that girl, who is she? Yeah. Reenaji?
Nasam varur vanyatma bhuvisprika purimimam virvaren sakam aharisya lankartu mad karmana lokam param shrireva yagyapunsa. O greatly fortunate one, it appears that you are none of the women I have mentioned because I see that your feet are touching the ground. But if you are some woman of this planet, you can, like the goddess of fortune, who, accompanied by Lord Vishnu, increases the beauty of the Vaikuntha planets, also increase the beauty of this city by associating with me. You should understand that I am a great hero and a very powerful king on this planet. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So I think we will take a pause here and we'll continue reading this story of King Puranjan tomorrow. But basically, as you see, what Narad Muni is trying to do is recite the story of King Puranjan so that Prachin Bhavishat, the King Prachin Bhavishat understands, right, that he needs to get out of the fruitive activities and start advancing in the spiritual activities. And that is being told by none other than Narad Muni himself. And last time, of course, we read beautiful stuti by none other than Lord Shiva himself, right? So we'll continue reading this tomorrow. So today we are going to hear a nice bhajan and then we will continue this tomorrow, yeah? So nice bhajan by Kripaloji Maharaj's Sishya. So,
गोविंद राधे श्री राधे राधे गोविंद राधे आई है गल बहिया दे।
Right, so very blissful bhajan, right? RadheGovind. And we'll see you tomorrow at 9:30.
Yep.
Yeah. And we also have Jay joined us today. He's in US actually.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
So he found some
Congratulations,
time.
Jay.
Congratulations, Jay.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
How long you're here for?
I'm here for a month, and then we'll be traveling around.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So, right. We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah.
See you. Bye.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.